My name is Robin Condon, and I'm the assistant editor of the Frederick Douglass Papers. The director of our project is John R. McKivigan, who is the Mary O'Brien Gibson Professor of History here at IUPUI. He's been with the project for almost 30 years, since it started at Yale University in 1973. So it's a very long-standing project. Frederick Douglass Papers is a project that started in 1973 at Yale University. It is a projected 14-volume series that comprises Frederick Douglass's speeches, his autobiographies, his editorial writings, and his correspondence. We're in the midst of publishing a projected 14-volume selected version of some of them, because we can't publish all of them. For example, with the speeches, that is a series that has been completed, and he gave so many speeches that we had to choose from among the speeches. But we do include in our books extensive appendices and apparatuses so that we can direct scholars to other versions of speeches, and they have been divided into families of speeches. So let's say he's giving a speech he gave a speech called William the Silent, for example, and he gave it many, many times, and there are so many versions of it, so the apparatus will direct a scholar to different versions of the speech besides the one that was chosen. Right now we're working on the final volume of our second series, our autobiographical writings. Frederick Douglass wrote his autobiography 3 different times. He wrote The Narrative of Frederick Douglass, which was basically his life as a slave. He wrote My Bondage and My Freedom, which chronicled his escape from slavery and his early years with the Garrisonian abolitionists. Finally, in 1881, he wrote his Life and Times, and that's the one we're working on. That is a copious work that includes all the material from Narrative and Bondage and Freedom, although sometimes it's recast, and quite a bit of other material that is very important to understanding Frederick Douglass's life, not just as a life, not just as a self-narrative, but as a history. So in that work, that's the work where he is most fully a historian of slavery, of the antebellum era in America, of Reconstruction, of the Civil War, of the Jim Crow era. So it really spans much more of his political life. And as a typical Victorian autobiography, it does really focus on his political life much more so than his personal life. Our archive is very unique in that we have photocopies of many of Douglass's original documents, and in fact have more than any single repository in the country. So although we don't own very many original documents, we have photocopies of much of his correspondence, of many of his newspapers, of editorials, of newspaper mentions. So it's really quite a treasure trove of possible primary sources for researchers. To students, we offer actually the most comprehensive historical apparatuses, that is, footnotes explaining what Frederick Douglass was talking about, for frequently read texts like The Narrative of Frederick Douglass, which is used in high schools. In fact, Yale has produced a mass market version of our hardback narrative for that very purpose, for course adoptions in high schools and in undergraduate classes. We also next year are going to start implementing an outreach program with one charter high school here in Indianapolis, where we will go into the high school and show the students the work historians actually do as they annotate these volumes and as they compare the volumes.